All right, hi. Welcome to my Google, coffee break hangout thing. Lauren Comito. Today, I'm going to be talking about 5 ways professionalism can kill your library. And want to say thank you for stopping in. Hang on one sec as I share my screen. Screen share. This one. Share. Wait, that's not what I meant. There we go. All right. So we talk about professionalism. And when we talk about professionalism, we don't usually mean the regular definition of professionalism, which is, this, the competence or skill expected of a professional. This definition actually makes sense. It means basically doing your job well. But then there's this sort of shadow definition of professionalism, which basically comes out as you need to act the way I think is appropriate or you aren't professional. And that's kind of just crap. We use it online as a cudgel, sort of make ourselves feel better, like we are somehow more professional than other people because we act properly. It is not real, it's sort of objective. Everybody has a different idea of how people should act at work, and I would say that most of those ideals are valid. Ideas are valid. I wouldn't suggest, farting in your office or anything, because that's just rude to your coworkers, but having a picture of your kid on the wall, not rude. So I think sometimes we use professionalism as a way of telling people that their ideas or thoughts about work aren't valid. And I don't like that. So we're going to talk about 5 different ways that I think that particular thing, that sort of shadow definition of professionalism, is killing your library. Obviously, we need to do our jobs well. That's kind of the point. But we can do that and still be real people. So, how can you serve people from up on that pedestal that you've put yourself on by saying that you are a professional and your idea of what a professional is and what professionalism is and how people should act at work is the only idea that is really valid? We're a service profession. So it doesn't really matter what kind of library you're in or what your job is. In some way, your job probably involves helping people. Nobody really likes to be helped by people who are looking down on them. Yes, we have skills as librarians and library staff that make it so that we can help people, but we need to do that while still being approachable and still being on the same level as the people that we're helping. Yeah. So if we wanted robot librarians, we'd build them. They're not, libraries are about human beings, like actual human beings, the kind that has kids and dogs and lots of cats and sometimes gets sick. The idea that being professional means leaving all of that behind is just silly. We bring our own experiences to our work and to our libraries, and we should be able to do that. We should be able to find a balance between our regular outside of work lives and our work lives without having to put up some gigantic wall that we are the library automatons as soon as we walk in the door to work. Um, as an example, I sometimes bring my daughter to work. She's really great at putting stickers on things, and she's totally ace at getting people to sign in at the beginning of computer classes, which I am apparently not as good as she is at. Like, nobody dares tell her I'm not signing in. Um, but when I run into patrons in the library or out on the street, like, they have something they can talk to me about more than, what am I reading? They can ask me how Tara is, and they do a lot. Um, and I usually just tell them she's doing good. She's at school or at ballet or whatever, and then we go on to talk about what they need. But they had that sort of entry point to talk to me about her or my life before they get to ask me the questions that they really need to ask me. It gives them an opening to speak to me as a person rather than just the librarian behind the desk. Um, I'm not this automaton, I'm just Lauren, the librarian who helps them find stuff. And that's just my situation. And I think I have a different place where I put my dividing line between my life and my work than most people. It works for me, and it seems to work for my patrons. Um, One thing I want to mention though is that using professionalism as like a cudgel for keeping people in line, which is basically what I see happen mostly on the internet is just also terrible for diversity. Because what most people mean when they say act professionally is that you should basically act white, act like a wasp, which is kind of what I am. That's not cool either. If we want to make a more human profession and one where people can be themselves, and I really think we should, I think it makes us a stronger profession. We need to examine what we mean by professional in general, especially when it comes to things like clothing, culture, sexuality, gender presentation. I know that I can get away with being more unprofessional in some areas. I can get away with being the kooky one who always has some crazy ideas in a big way because of who I am and what I look like. We just need to do better with that as a profession. Everybody should have the opportunity to be themselves at work. All right. And it stifles new ideas. I've been a librarian for 9 years now, which feels like a really, really long time, but I actually am still pretty new and young. But how many times have you, in the beginning of your career at least, been told when you come up with an idea, we tried that, it didn't work, so we just aren't doing it now? Or you have to pay your dues? Or just in general had your thoughts disregarded because you were new and you just hadn't been around enough and you didn't know, you don't know enough to say what we should do or come up with new ideas. And maybe that thing that they tried was tried 5 years ago and maybe it didn't work. But instead of just saying we did this before, it didn't work, we did this 5, 10 years ago and it flopped and we're not doing it again. We can take the time as older or mid-career professionals to talk about what the project entailed when we tried it 5 years ago. Why did it fail? What we learned from it? Or maybe the person suggesting it now, walking into the profession now, has ideas for addressing those fail points. And even if they don't, you've just given them an insight on how to evaluate failed projects and why they might fail, how to avoid that in the future. Listening to ideas and talking to them with respect, regardless of how new they are to the profession, is really important, even if you don't have the money or can't make those ideas happening. But ignoring them just because you think that the messenger is too green or doesn't have enough experience to really come up with that idea or hasn't earned the right to come up with a new idea or have an opinion on something kind of stinks. Which brings us to there's no I'm better than you in team. Um, Teams have hierarchies, and that makes sense, right? It's good to have someone to lead and organize what's happening. But at the same time, we shouldn't turn that hierarchy into a constant game of not my job, right? No, you're not too good to clean up vomit if there's vomit on the floor. You can at least cover it with a trash can. No, you're not too good to check a book out or shift the collection or crawl under a desk to plug something back in. If we want to talk about the real definition of professionalism, going back to being good at your job, that's all of it, job title or not. And I think sometimes once you get past the point in your career where you're the person who has to crawl under the desk to plug something back in, you don't want to do it anymore. But that doesn't work. It doesn't help you build a team where everybody really wants to support each other. And that's what we should be doing. We should be building teams where if somebody falls down for a second or is overworked, we can pick up the slack and help them out. Having the that's not my job mentality doesn't help us do that and doesn't make the library either a really good place to work or have it be any fun because everybody's so busy staying in their boxes. So really, when you're using professionalism as an excuse to keep people from using their ideas or to tell them what they should think or that they don't have the right to have those thoughts yet because they're too new or whatever, it's just not as much fun. I mean, look, Twilight Sparkle is arguably a terrible librarian. Her library is a mess. She can never find a book when she actually needs one, and she's kind of too busy training to be a princess to be bothered organizing her collection. But, she and Spike and her friends, they have fun. The library in Ponyville is a happy, fun place to be. we have these amazing jobs where we get to connect people with the resources they need, the things they want to read, the things they want to do. Um, we have like the best jobs in the world. We don't need to put ourselves in boxes to keep ourselves in the best jobs in the world. We just have them. So our libraries should be fun too. Maybe not as fun as Ponyville because they have all these Apple festivals and stuff. I watched way too much My Little Pony. But we should act like we have the best jobs in the world because we really do. I mean, we just do. Libraries are awesome. So thank you. And let me get back to that other window. Stop. Hi. Well, that